another excerpt from the book Diary of a Drug Fiend by Aleister Crowley. It's only about a page and a half long, but it details a woman's point of view on the holiness of heroin. And I found this just a very interesting perspective. Um, and so I just feel like you guys have to hear it when you think of opiates and opioids in this almost holy, sacramental way. I just thought it was a very interesting point of view this woman has. So here we go. The whole of the woman's vitality was directed to some secret interior shrine of her own soul. Now she began to speak for the first time. The only subject that interested her in this wide universe was heroin. Her voice was monotonous. Lou told me later that it reminded her of a dirge droned by Tibetan monks far off across implacable snow. "It's the only thing there is," she said, in a tone of extraordinary ecstatic detachment. One could divine an infinite unholy joy derived from its own sadness. It was as if she took a morbid pleasure in being something melancholy, something monstrous. There was, in fact, a kind of martyred majesty in her mood. "You mustn't expect to get the result at once," she went on. "You have to be born into it, married with it, and dead from it before you can understand. Different people are different, but it always takes some months at least before you get rid of that stupid nuisance, life. As long as you have animal passions, you are an animal. How disgusting it is to think of eating and loving and all those appetites, like cattle. Breathing itself would be beastly if one knew what one were doing. How intolerable life would be to people of even mediocre refinement if they were always acutely conscious of the process of digestion." She gave a little shiver. "You've read the Mystics, Sir Peter," interrupted Freckles. "I'm afraid not, my dear man," I replied. "The fact is, I haven't read anything much unless I had to. I went into it rather for a couple of years," he returned, and then stopped short and flushed. The thought had apparently called up some very unpleasant memories. He tried to cover his confusion by volubility, and began an elaborate exposition of the tenets of Saint Teresa, Miguel de Molinos, and several others celebrated in that line. "The main point, you see," he recapitulated finally, "is the theory that everything human in us is before all things an obstacle in the way of holiness. That is the secret of the saints, that they renounce everything for one thing which they call the divine purity. It is not simply those things which we ordinarily call sins or vices. Those are merely the elementary forms of iniquity, exuberant grossness. The real difficulty hardly begins till things of that sort are dismissed forever. On the road to saintship, every bodily or mental manifestation is in itself a sin, even when it is something which ordinary piety would class as a virtue. Haiti here has got the same idea." She nodded serenely. "I had no idea," she said, "that those people had got so much sense. I've always thought of them as tangled up with religious ideas. I understand now. Yes, it is the life of holiness, if you have to go to the trouble of putting it in the terms of morality, as I suppose you English people have to. I feel that contact of any sort, even with myself, contaminates me. I was the chief of sinners in my time, in the English sense of the word. Now, I have forgotten what love means, except for a faint sense of nausea when it comes under my notice. I hardly eat at all. It's only brutes that want to wallow in action that need 3 meals a day. I hardly ever talk. Words seem such waste. And they are, none of them, true. No one has yet invented a language from my point of view. Human life or heroin life. I've tried them both, and I don't regret having chosen as I did. I said something about heroin shortening life. A wan smile flickered on her hollow cheeks. There was something appalling in its wintry splendor. It silenced us. She looked down at her hands. I noticed for the first time, with extreme surprise, that they were extraordinarily dirty. She explained her smile. Of course, if you count time by years, you're very likely right. But what of the calculations of astronomers to do with the life of the soul? Before I started heroin, year followed year, and nothing worthwhile happened. It was like a child scribbling in a ledger. Now that I've gotten into the heroin life, a minute or an hour, I don't know which, and I don't care, contains more real life than any 5 years period in my unregenerate days. You talk of death. Why shouldn't you? It's perfectly all right for you. You animals have got to die, and you know it. But I am very far from sure that I shall ever die, and I am as indifferent to the idea as I am to any other of your monkey ideas. She relapsed into silence, leaned back, and closed her eyes once more.